So today we're going to be doing some sighted guiding. What I'm going to teach is the methods of sight guiding that are what the guide dogs do, and it's for the person who would be otherwise physically healthy.
Visual impairment affects as many as 2 million people and their families in the UK alone. That's why Skills for Care worked with Sight Service to run a course for people who offer care and support to the visually impaired in South Tyneside and Gateshead in the northeast of England.
We do a lot of support and training for visually impaired people, and we run a course for people who are newly registered, and on that course people have said, I wish there was something like this for my husband or wife or son or daughter. We did devise a course for carers along similar lines to the course we run for visually impaired people, but getting the funding to do it had been very difficult until Skills for Care came along and said they had some funding to pilot different courses for carers.
Hello, Michael.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Great. I believe you want to be sight guided around Sight Service?
That would be great.
Great. Which side would you like to be guided on, John?
Left, please.
On your left, okay. If you just hold your left hand out as if you're going to hold a pint glass. I can see you're familiar with that one, obviously.
No, it's full.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to put my elbow into there, okay? And don't grip too hard because stop your circulation. You all right?
Yeah.
Great. So if you just wiggle forward a little bit so we don't want you knocking the chair over.
Part of the 5-week intensive course focused on the practical support that the carers could offer to family members.
When my dad first lost his sight, he couldn't do a basic task like making a cup of tea. He was scared about spilling the hot water and hurting himself. And he got provided a liquid level indicator, really simple gadget. Helps him make a cup of tea, because before that it would mean he could potentially sit all day without a warm drink.
For me, I found it quite interesting about the different canes. A lot of the gadgets that were here I did know about because of being with Mick and knowing all the different things he had. But I mean, I didn't know about the little bump ones that they've got where you can put them on the microwave so you can find different buttons.
My husband was diagnosed with retinitis pigmentosa 20 odd years ago when our eldest son was 3, and he's been in denial ever since. Malcolm's condition particularly is a problem in the dark. So these energy-saving light bulbs are no good for him at all. He really needs a bright light. And we now know that they're available, and we don't have to suffer in silence any longer.
Daylight bulb. World of difference.
But there was much peer discussion about the emotional impact of visual impairment on the whole family.
My dad lost his sight just under a year ago now. He was blind in one eye for about 6 years, and then he lost the sight in his second eye. I can't even put into words how much things have changed. And although we try to make everything as normal as possible, and my dad still goes to the club with his friends and all the rest, it is different, and we do have to think about doing everything a little bit differently.
I mean, I've seen the emotional impact it had on my fiancé, and he actually cried about it, and he was like, oh, he's never going to get to see me kids. And I was thinking, but he's here. That's what you have to remember. He's still your dad. He's still going to be the grandfather when we have kids.
With him being diagnosed so long ago and the family being young, we only had one child at the time, it was kind of, he was another child. All I could think about was the practical side of things, don't leave things lying around, and, I'll help him do this and I'll help him do that. I wasn't prepared for the huge personality change in him and in our lives, because he's a totally different person now.
With your free hand, if you feel down my arm, and you take control of the door and you push the door and I go through first, okay?
The carers have learnt some valuable lessons from the course.
On the course, we've covered the emotional impact of sight loss. As my dad's daughter, it's been as much on me as it has on him, and the same for my mum. And I think that's something that maybe my dad didn't understand. It's been really great to meet other people who are going through similar things to my family. Other people are feeling what we're feeling, and whatever you're feeling is all right to feel.
For me, I suppose it's more of a confidence booster for me to be more outspoken about how I can help, and more supporting my fiancé, who I still think hasn't accepted what's happened to his dad.
I've learnt that I've not to beat myself up over feeling resentful or angry, because I've lost my former life as well. You know, we can't have ambient lighting in the house. It's got to be really strong lighting, so we can't sort of just sit with candles on, and so that element's gone. He can do quite a lot of things around the house, and I have learnt that I've got to let him do that.
I'm sure you're all familiar with this. So what you do, you press it and the green man comes on and you cross the road. Now if you can't see the green man, sometimes there's a bleeper. That's not always the case. Underneath there's actually a little cone, and the person who's visually impaired can press the button, put the hand under there, and what happens when the green man comes on, that thing gently rotates, very slowly.
And Sight Service are clear that the course has been a success.
We were aware that peer support would be a part of the course because it's worked in the course that we run for visually impaired people, and the support that visually impaired people get from being with other people in the same position is tremendous, and it has as much value as the topics we're discussing on the course. We knew it would have some impact, but just listening to the people who've been on the course, listening to what they've had to say has been lovely. I think it's been a very successful pilot. From running this course, we've learned an awful lot as an organisation, and I think the main thing we've learned is this is something we should be running a couple of times a year. I think the benefits for the carers and for visually impaired people have been tremendous. So I think we would be very silly not to do it again. I think we would lose something if we didn't do it again.